Hello, and welcome to Flip the Coin Onto Its Edge. I am your host, Michael Papaw Newton. I've studied philosophy, classic and ancient mythology, spirituality, science, religions like Christianity, Judaism, Wicca, Kabbalah, Buddhism, and Taoism for over 20 years. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, leave all preconceived notions, opinions, and beliefs at the door. Open up. This episode is number 10, and the essence of today's episode is Where Are the Others? This is a 2-episode series. This is a long one, folks, but to get a grip on the subject, it needs to be. In this captivating episode, we dive into the intriguing questions that spark our curiosity about the universe. Where is the other intelligent life? Join us as we embark on a journey of discovery and wonder, exploring the mysteries of the cosmos and our quest to find companionship beyond Earth. Just a reminder, tap the button to follow this podcast. Now, into our show. People who devote a lifetime of study to a particular area often come to believe that the subject is their own personal property. Fritz Zwicky, the famous Swiss astronomer, was perpetually speaking about my stars and my galaxy. But of course, the universe recognizes no such proprietary rights, nor does the universe know anything of the separation we make between biology and the other sciences, physics, astronomy, and chemistry, for example. All subjects in the world must therefore be taken together if we are to understand properly the way things are. The ideas often have a relevance in themselves, irrespective of which so-called branch of science they may come from. For instance, a remark of much interest to biology was made by Enrico Fermi, the great atomic physicist. It was apparent to him that if life was not unique to the Earth, it was likely to have arisen thousands, if not millions of times in our galaxy alone. If other intelligent creatures besides ourselves do exist, as one would expect from the cosmic theory, some creatures, it is argued, would have attained a level of technology sufficient either to contact us or even to achieve space travel on an interstellar scale. Fermi asked the question, where are the others? A problem that some astronomers have been trying to answer ever since. The Earth, with its freely flowing supply of water, is evidently a highly desirable property. One would, therefore, not expect the Earth to have been invaded and colonized by some superior intelligence from outside. If this had happened, the evolution of earthly life would have been interrupted, and we ourselves would not have emerged as the dominant animal. Since this hasn't happened, the argument continues. Intelligent life cannot be widespread throughout the galaxy. And indeed, perhaps there is no intelligent life at all apart from ourselves. Before I come to consider the answer to this argument, I would like to emphasize that it is sectarian, held by some, but not by all scientists. Indeed, other scientists feel so strongly that life, even intelligent life, exists elsewhere in our galaxy that it is worth spending much time, effort, and money in seeking it out. The favorite idea is to search for radio signals emanating from other star systems, a search for intelligent extraterrestrial life, or SETI as it has become known, spelled SETI. The SETI Institute operates the Allen Telescope Array, or APA, in Northern California, a radio interferometer designed specifically for SETI work. The system has recently undergone major upgrades with advanced signal processing and AI tools, making it faster and more capable than ever before. This is all on the basis that success in such an enterprise would have a value far in excess of its cost. Technology is changing so rapidly that what might seem to us today to be the best method of interstellar communication is quite likely to have become outmoded by the year 2040. It can, of course, be argued that such a point of view is a counsel of despair, and that an ongoing policy must begin somewhere. Agreed. There is, I feel, an important difference between the outlook of the supporters of SETI and the point of view discussed in this podcast. The former believe that terrestrial life began here on the Earth, and that life has begun similarly but independently on other planets moving around other stars. They see life in our galaxy as a collection of isolated pockets, whereas I see it as a coherent whole developed out of a single sum total of cosmic genes. To the extent that one planet is different from another, the viable aggregates of genes will be different, giving plants and animals with different properties. To the extent that planets are similar, the plants and animals will be similar, is what they think. Each individual habitat sorts out the biological structures best suited to itself, which I believe to be the correct expression of the process of natural selection. But let us now return to Fermi's question: where are the others? There are quite a number of answers to the argument that intelligent life should have colonized the Earth before man took hold. By the time such extraterrestrial creatures had attained a technological level sufficient to achieve space colonization, granting this to be possible, many more interesting things may well have opened up. Far from being a desirable aim, space colonization may have seemed a trivial or futile activity. Another retort, quite popular with some people, is to argue that the others are indeed here, or do at least visit the Earth intermittently, hence the cult of the UFO. In a more abstract sense than purely physical UFOs, I do not entirely dismiss this seemingly curious concept. Imagine a person kicking away a stone to find ants scurrying hither and thither underneath it. To the human, they are ants, but to the ant, the ants see nothing of the human. Perhaps likewise, we might see nothing of a higher intelligence that is around us all the time. But the trouble with this idea is that it is a fossil concept. It leads to nothing practical for one to do to establish its truth. Conscious, no doubt, of this weakness, believers in UFOs claim actual contact between humans and supposed intelligences from outside. But here the credibility takes a nosedive because the humans involved in the supposed contacts invariably turn out to be unreliable witnesses. If a UFO were to appear at low altitude at rush hour over Manhattan or Paris, on the other hand, the situation would be different. In the early days of modern science, perspectives were wider than they are today, because knowledge was not then extensive enough to rule out all manner of ideas that we would now regard as absurd. It was so even as late as the days of Isaac Newton in the early 1700s. to early scientists, there were all manner of unicorns, some of which have eventually turned out to be real beasts. As knowledge advanced and as education became more formalized, the scientific world greatly contracted its horizon, limiting its perspectives until nothing strange or unexpected could be contemplated. More and more as time went on, the range of concepts permitted in so called serious discussion has become decided subjectively according to what seems plausible, where the criterion of plausibility is rather arbitrary instead of being based on observation or experiment. If one were to ask a modern scientist the question, do you consider it likely that wholly unexpected aspects of the universe remain to be discovered? What may be a fairly typical answer might be yes, but we must be careful to shut our minds to the possibility until we happen to stumble on it by experiment or observation. There is a further point which makes me instinctively doubtful of UFO stories. I know of no important new development to have emerged in science that did not lead quickly to remarkable new consequences. If there were any truth to the UFO stories, something of a drastic consequence would have emerged unequivocally by now. Although vastly more romantic and exuberant, I fear that UF stories are just as misplaced and untrue as the stories of my boyhood. There is nearly always a curious quality to be found in remarkable true stories, which people with the intent to deceive or to mislead in a friendly way can never imitate. The imagination of the fictional storyteller is too limited. An interesting example of what I believe to be a true tall story was told long ago by the Greek historian Herodotus. Around 600 BC, the Phoenicians, based in North Africa, were the greatest of all seafaring nations. The nature of the African continent and the extent of its continuation to the south was then a great mystery to all the peoples of the Mediterranean. Herodotus recounted the story of a Phoenician expedition that sailed around the continent from the Red Sea to Gibraltar. The Phoenicians sailed from the Arabian Gulf into the Southern Ocean, and every autumn put in at some convenient spot on the African coast, sowed a patch of ground, and waited for next year's harvest. Then, having got their grain, they put to sea again, and after 2 full years, they rounded the Pillars of Hercules in the course of the third and returned to Egypt. Herodotus then says, these men made a statement which I do not believe myself, though others may, to the effect that as they sailed on a westerly course round the southern end of Africa, they had the sun on their right, northward of them. To the people of the Mediterranean, many of whom believed that the earth was flat, this would have seemed quite impossible. But with the benefit of modern geography, we know that the Phoenicians' statement, one a deceitful person would never invent, was correct. The colonization of the galaxy is conceived by those who take it seriously in a manner remarkably similar to the method used by the Phoenician crew of 600 BC. Although estimates are rather uncertain, it is common among astronomers to take one star system in 1,000 to contain a colonizable planet or satellite of a planet. The nearest star system to ours containing such a body would then be about 100 light years away, extrapolating present day technology enormously. to the limit of what a knowledge of physics shows to be possible, it has been calculated that a spaceship might conceivably travel at 1/10 the speed of light, in which case a ship from Earth would reach the nearest suitable star system in a mere 1,000 years. Does the fact that they, some other creatures, are not here really disprove the picture of life as a cosmic phenomenon? Not at all. In my view, for as I see it, the argument is flatly wrong. Space travel enthusiasts would accuse me, I suppose, of a narrow lack of imagination. Consider our distant ancestors of 1 million years ago. Could they have conceived of the modern airplane, it might be asked, or of modern radio communication? Of course not. But while such apparent miracles of achievement are possible in matters that are initially beyond our comprehension, miracles of achievement are much harder to come by in matters we already know a lot about. Our ancestors of 1 million years ago knew a lot about sticks and stones, and I doubt that we today could do much better or even equal them in stick and stone technology. The essential point is that nothing discovered in the future can contradict what we already know to be true, and future miracles in known areas of knowledge cannot be expected to appear to order. The really strong comeback to the colonization argument, however, is that the whole of the picture conceals the important assumption that the spaceships are always targeted immediately towards the next port of call. It sounds simple, but how is it done? How can it be known in advance which of the nearest 1,000 star systems contains the next wanted planet or satellite of a planet? With the Hubble telescope, the situation, so far as angular resolution is concerned, would permit two equally bright stars separated from each other by the same distance as the Earth from the Sun to be distinguished separately in the telescope from about 100 light years away. However, distinguishing two equally bright stars separately is not the same as distinguishing a star from a planet, because a planet is exceedingly faint compared to a star. So far as brightness is concerned, the Earth is very much the junior partner in the Earth-Sun system. The Earth has a brightness only about 1/10 billionth of the Sun, and so would be entirely swamped by the Sun's light. Indeed, when seen from a distance of 100 light years, the Earth would be exceedingly faint and would be hard to examine in detail, even without the Sun. In the Sun's overwhelming glare, it would be impossible to distinguish the hospitable Earth from its inhospitable sister planet, Venus, whose temperature at ground level is far above the boiling point of water. That's all we have time for. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Today, we had a thoughtful discussion about extraterrestrial life and the intriguing reasons why we haven't come across any yet. We explored some of the most common scenarios and found some interesting answers. I'm looking forward to our next chat where we'll dive into some deeper questions about colonization, both ours and theirs. I advise you not to believe anything you hear in this podcast. Test it out in your life. It has to work for you. Believing means there is already an element of doubt. The secret to success is to know the laws of life, not to believe in them. When you test these laws and principles, you will come to know. For your own benefit, make room for compelling new ideas. This will allow you to understand and evaluate the teachings more effectively. Quick reminder, click the button to follow this podcast. Remember, God woke you up this morning for a reason. Now go out and find out why.